Dear beloved Cancer, today we're going to delve deep into an issue that once shattered your heart, a betrayal from within your own family. But this isn't a story about a sibling or a typical family member. This is an unveiling of the silent burdens you've carried under the shadow of a woman whose very name is enough to reopen 1,000 old wounds, your stepmother. You didn't stumble upon this video by accident. Your very soul, in its relentless quest for safety and deep emotional connection, guided you here. There's a truth waiting to be acknowledged, one that has been buried beneath the veneer of false peace for far too long. Perhaps their actions weren't a direct attack, but you felt the gut-wrenching pain of shattered trust and exploited loyalty. And perhaps, just perhaps, another family member, maybe your own father, stood by her side, their silence, a galling form of complicity. This space isn't for assigning blame. It's for validating your feelings, acknowledging that what you've experienced is real and deserving of healing. Wounds can only begin to close when we name the truth, and today we will do just that. For a Cancer betrayal is rarely a loud, dramatic argument. Instead, it's the collapse of a sacred covenant, a secret you confided used against you, an unconditional love met with coldness, or your quiet, nurturing efforts taken for granted. Imagine longing for a profound mother-child bond, only to discover the woman who was supposed to be a mother was subtly sowing seeds of distance, of internal suspicion. In that moment, your heart didn't just break, it froze, it died a little. Not from a material loss, but because the sacred intimacy you cherished was cruelly violated. There are wounds that don't come from harsh words, but from the silence of those who were supposed to protect you. I've witnessed this time and again, as deep souls like yours become the family's secret keepers and emotional anchors, only to find themselves standing alone when their own trust is threatened. You, my dear Cancer, are a person of keen intuition, one who feels the undercurrents. You don't need anyone to tell you this. You feel it in every cell of your being. You can sense when something is off, a subtle lie, a hidden agenda. These tiny shifts speak volumes to you, revealing a truth others might overlook. You are not merely a creature of emotion. Your wisdom is as profound and resilient as the ocean. Your intuition, often labeled overly sensitive or moody, has always been your most reliable compass, guiding you to what is real and what is false. I remember a poignant story from a woman who spent her life guarding a family secret. Yet it was her stepmother, whom she tried to trust, who exploited that secret for personal gain. That betrayal not only subjected her to public shame, it robbed her of faith in the sacred bond she always protected. The Buddha once said there is no wound deeper than the rejection from someone you love unconditionally. We can endure life's storms, but it's the betrayal from those we consider our own flesh and blood that truly rattles the soul. Cancer, you may have chosen silence, not because you've forgiven, but because you've been observing, gathering information. You retreat into your shell, not out of fear, but to protect your energy. Yet inside there's the roar of a wounded soul crying out, "Why was my love and care treated this way?" That question has been buried deep, but your soul has never stopped seeking the answer. Today, I am not here to condemn your family, but to give voice to that deep, hurt part of you that has been left unheard for too long. Cancer, do you remember those family dinners where you just wanted to disappear? Those times you yearned for love, but received only chilling indifference from your stepmother? Or those moments where your father's silence was more painful than 1,000 reprimands? If you too have lived through difficult days under the shadow of a stepmother, if you also carry unnamed scars, I am ready to hear your story. Share your stepmother story in the comments below. It will not only help you release it, but also connect with kindred spirits. You are not alone. And if these words are resonating with your heart, if you feel seen, please hit that subscribe button right now. This is a safe haven for your healing, a place where we journey together into the soul's deepest truths. Remember this: you are not vengeful, you are not controlling, and you are not cold. You are simply attuned to the core values of sincerity and emotional security, and that intense nature is not a curse. It's a testament to a soul that understands true worth. Perhaps you've been accustomed to giving your all without expecting anything in return, convincing yourself they didn't mean to hurt you. But it's time to recognize that your feeling of betrayal is absolutely valid. Has anyone ever asked you, are you tired of being the strong one? Has anyone ever sat with you not to pry for a secret, but just to say, thank you for being the one we could always count on? If not, let me be the first to offer you that recognition. Breathe deep, not to erase the past, but to make space for the truth to breathe. Because this pain isn't just from one person. Another family member stood behind them, silently enabling this betrayal. Betrayal doesn't always come from the direct actor. Sometimes it stems from those who choose silence. This silence can feel like a betrayal, leaving you feeling unprotected and isolated. Imagine the pain of realizing that someone you considered an ally, someone who knew how much you sacrificed, chose to stand by while you were undermined. They didn't protect you not because they didn't know, but because they made a choice, and that choice wasn't you. Have you ever felt that no one stabbed you in the back, but someone held you back, preventing you from defending yourself? In my spiritual counseling sessions, this truth often emerges. I don't blame the one who took from me. I can't forgive the one who stood by and said nothing. I once spoke to a girl whose own father stood silently by as false rumors were spread about her by her stepmother, never once defending his daughter's honor. That silence can be more agonizing than any accusation. Cancer. You despise superficiality and emotional instability. You crave sincerity even when it's excruciating. Because you often choose to retreat into silence, to observe the silent ones, find it easy to side with the other party. They assume you'll handle it just as you always do. They take your resilience for granted, using it as a rug to sweep their own cowardice under. But your soul cannot bear this burden any longer. God does not work in the noise. He sees all. Every silent tear, every act of complicity, every moment you felt your trust shatter. No one can deceive him. He doesn't need you to seek revenge. He wants you to recognize that this was never an equitable relationship. Let go completely and without resentment. How many times have you left a family gathering feeling like an invisible entity, present yet valued only for what you could conceal, speaking truths unheard, silently exhausted, with no one asking why? Your soul knew this truth long ago. You just dared not name it. You feared losing the little connection you had left, worried they'd label you needy or overly emotional. But today, I urge you to be brave. Name the truth. Acknowledge that someone enabled this betrayal and you no longer have to accept it. If no one has ever told you this, let me be the first. Their standing by was wrong. Their choice of silence was wrong, and you don't have to carry that burden anymore. You've carried the feeling of being undervalued for too long into every family meal, every secret you kept, and every time you offered help despite your reservations. Lay that burden down here, in this moment, in this sacred space where truth is spoken, not to attack, but to liberate your soul. Why did they choose you to bear this particular wound? There's a truth buried under layers of memory that you're about to uncover, and it will change everything. I know you've asked countless times, what did I do wrong? You've scrutinized every action, every boundary you set, fearing your own emotional intensity caused this distance. You've tried to be more tolerant, more open. Yet the more you gave, the more they took, leaving you to ask, why? Today, I want to make it clear they don't hate you. They simply can't stand the sincerity and emotional depth you represent. You did nothing wrong. You are just different. You are the one who dared to live by a code of emotional integrity, who didn't chase after superficial pleasures. You set clear boundaries while others lived in chaos, and because of this, they saw you as a mirror reflecting their own lack of emotional discipline and their own shadows. When people lack the courage to face their reflection, they often turn their contempt onto the mirror itself. I remember a girl who shared her experience. I was always the different kid. I didn't participate in the shallow plays. I was introverted. I spoke of deep truths, and they called me intense and negative. She knew she was simply different, and that difference made her a target. Cancer, you are the sign of nurturing, of protection, where emotions are understood and developed. You are where karma is resolved, where the seeds of truth are planted in the hope that you will cultivate them into a garden of emotional wisdom. You were born into a family where perhaps your stepmother didn't understand the value of your emotional depth, scoffed at your inner profoundness, labeled you unapproachable. But you were never meant to be shallow. Your soul came here to nurture, to create lasting meaning, and that frightens those who struggle with their own superficiality. Your presence illuminates their lack of emotional grounding. They didn't mean to hurt you. They simply couldn't handle the truth within you. You've spent years doubting yourself because you weren't allowed to live in alignment with your soul. You are quiet, but feel deeply, patiently, enduring disappointment for too long. You silently walked away trying to avoid conflict, even as your trust was shattering. Then they labeled you moody, demanding, or hard to get along with. But those labels are not the truth. They are simply a projection of their discomfort. Today, I'm not here to dissect you. I'm here to defend you, to defend that part of your soul that values unflinching integrity, the part you've hidden, fearing no one would understand. Your steadfastness, depth, and sense of responsibility don't need to apologize for making others uncomfortable. You were born to be real, and no one has the right to make you feel you need permission to be yourself. You've endured enough, trying to fit into a mold that wasn't yours. Today, you don't have to force anything anymore. You don't have to keep giving so much. You were chosen to break cycles of emotional instability. You are not the odd one out in your family. You are the one who held the torch of truth in a room full of flickering shadows. After all the wounds, what have you chosen? You didn't retaliate. You didn't hold grudges. You chose to silently rebuild your own world, transforming pain into strength, even if no one ever came back to apologize. That's when a new chapter begins. There's a truth your soul has known for a long time, but your heart didn't want to accept. Some people will never apologize, not because they don't know they hurt you, but because they lack the courage to face their own shortcomings. You've waited, observed in silence, hoping they would finally recognize your worth and acknowledge their wrongdoings. Yet years passed, and you, the one still holding on to that hope, began to run out of patience. I once waited for an apology for 15 years, only to realize that some people will never mature enough to admit they were wrong because they never truly valued themselves. How could they know how to value others? My dear Cancer, you carry a sacred gift, the ability to rise from deep emotions. But because of this strength, you often endure the deepest betrayals of trust. You wait for something others are incapable of giving. You hope they'll just figure it out on their own, but waiting in silence can be one of the loneliest forms of pain. Scripture teaches us about forgiveness, urging us to forgive, not out of weakness, but as a profound act of reclaiming our own power. I once met a woman in her 70s whose children had emotionally defrauded her without ever offering an explanation. For years, she lived in silence, never seeking reconciliation. When I asked her if she resented them, she simply smiled, a calm and profound smile. When a relationship dies, does a phoenix ever blame the fire? It simply allows itself to be reborn from the ashes. My dear Cancer, forgiveness doesn't mean you condone their actions. It doesn't mean everything is okay. Forgiveness means you no longer wish to carry that burden. It's about severing the invisible toxic cord that connects you to those who devalued you. It's about asking yourself, do I deserve peace? Letting go isn't about them deserving forgiveness. It's about you deserving peace and reclaiming your power. You've walked far enough with that wound, through sleepless nights and frustrated conversations in moments you wanted to speak up, but chose strategic silence instead. You are allowed to sit down, not to wait for anyone to return, but so you can stand up and move forward without dragging old sorrows. You don't need anyone to validate your worth. You need space to breathe, a quiet corner where your soul can feel safe again. Have you ever wondered, if I let go, will I lose them forever? Here's the truth. No one can truly leave you if they were never truly there for you. You're not losing them. You're releasing an illusion to embrace what is real. You deserve a love that honors your sacrifices. You don't need them to change. You just need to choose yourself again. From this moment forward, do not let your life depend on an apology that never comes. Do not wait by a door that never opens, and do not cling to a bond that only you are fighting to maintain. My dearest Cancer, I invite you to sit in quiet reflection for a moment and ask yourself, am I truly losing them, or am I releasing something that no longer treats me with respect? You need to understand that you are not as alone as you think. Your true family, your soul tribe, is seeking you out. Some may call themselves family by blood, but they never ask, are you tired? Do you need help? Do you need to be cherished? Then there are those you haven't even met yet, but when they look into your eyes, they recognize your journey. They sit with you not to take, but to share in the deep, intense rhythm of life. My dear Cancer, you are a being of depth and value. You don't crave empty accolades or chaotic crowds. You seek a connection trustworthy enough for you to finally be yourself without needing to be on guard. Astrology calls you the nurturer, the protector of the heart, the inheritor of lessons in resilience and emotional rebirth. Because of this, the universe always sends the right souls to you at the right time. You've stepped out of the old circle, the one where you were the only one tending a long neglected garden. Let me share a story. A 5-year-old man lived alone after leaving a conflict-ridden family. He studied mystical texts and enjoyed the quiet on his porch. Every week, his young neighbor, whom he had only met a year prior, brought him a cup of tea just because. Not family, not a lifelong friend, but that simple, consistent act of kindness was worth more than anything he had ever received from his blood relatives. Family isn't where you have to stay quiet. It's not where you clean up messes or shrink yourself for others' comfort. Family is where you can breathe a sigh of relief, and someone cherishes that breath with all their heart. You were never truly alone, my dear Cancer. You just hadn't met someone who could call your soul by its true name. Your true name is not moody, demanding, or hard to get along with. Your true name is the nurturer, the heart keeper, the one who believes in loyal love to the very end. There's a door opening, not for others to walk in, but for you to walk out of the cramped room you've confined yourself to. You thought, if I leave, who will maintain this place? You don't have to maintain it anymore. What awaits you is a new foundation, a new home, a community where you don't need permission to be cherished. Are you ready to embrace this new family, one that loves